ready to call you next week?
Yeah, this one window.
All right. I've got a collection of your notes. If you would like some to recycle, I'll bring them together. Essentially, all have exhibits that already have copies of.
Your Honor, I'm endeavoring to filibuster the other side with all of my notes. All right, well.
While we're doing that, Ms. Tessie, could you approach Mrs. Brett just a second?
Joey Preston to the stand.
Forward, sir.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give the court today in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you would take the stand, please, sir, and state your name for the record and spell your last name for the reporter, please.
Joey Preston, P-R-E-S-T-O-N.
Your witness, Mr. Davis. You may. Thank you. Yes, you may. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Preston. We've met before. I'd like to not rehash everything, but I would like to just cover some issues that haven't come up about each of the topics so far. If you look in the notebook that I handed to you, Mr. Preston, first, if you could turn to the tab that's marked Defense Exhibit 60. Mr. Preston, what is Defense Exhibit 60?
It is a job description for the Anderson County Economic Development Director, Division Director.
Is this the position Heather Jones applied for?
Yes.
Can you turn to the page that is face numbered, Plaintiff 00796? Does Defense Exhibit 60 reflect what tools and equipment would be required underneath this position?
Yes.
Is a motor vehicle listed?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the allegations leveled against you with respect to Heather Jones in this lawsuit?
Yes.
Do those allegations include backdating regarding a vehicle?
Yes.
Do those allegations include backdating regarding educational reimbursements?
Yes.
And do those allegations include issues relating to travel to Germany?
Yes.
If you could turn to Defense Exhibit 61. Mr. Preston, what is Defense Exhibit 61?
It's the news release that Anderson County prepared when we hired Heather Jones to be the Economic Development Director.
When is this news release dated?
September the 20th, 2006.
Does this news release list Ms. Jones' qualifications and her affiliations?
Yes.
Mr. Preston, do you recall an instance where in the time period after the execution of your severance agreement, Ms. Jones contacted you about memorializing her SUV?
Yes.
Tell the court about what happened in relation to that issue.
Remember correctly, there's a lot going on at that particular time. Things were kind of extremely busy. And she asked me, I believe, if I had put something in her file concerning her vehicle. I told her that, if I remember correctly, I had signed off on the email, the list of her requirements in order to go to work for Anderson County. And I'd attached that to her PAF, and I sent it up to personnel and told her to go look there and find it.
Okay, let's go back. Do you recall conversation with Ms. Jones before she came to work with Anderson County?
Yes.
Were the benefits Ms. Jones were the benefits offered to Ms. Jones discussed during this conversation?
Absolutely.
Do you recall whether Ms. Jones ever memorialized what those benefits that were offered to her were?
She did.
How did she do that?
In a memo.
In a memo? And how did she deliver that memo to you?
I believe it was in an email.
Mr. Preston, can you turn to Defense Exhibit 62? What is this document?
It is Heather Jones' resume.
In your view, in the time period of the fall of 2006, was Ms. Jones a qualified candidate?
Absolutely, one of the most qualified in the state.
Did she have impressive credentials?
She did.
Are those credentials reflected on Defense Exhibit 62?
Yes.
Was Ms. Jones someone you were interested in luring to Anderson County?
Yes.
Why?
Well, Anderson's kind of rough on their economic development directors, and to have someone of her quality be interested in the position, she expressed interest, and when I talked with her, I was impressed with her, and I felt like she'd be a good fit. I think she, at that time, I only had, I believe, there's only one female assistant division head within the county system, and she was very qualified. She had contacts all across the state of South Carolina, primarily with the Department of Commerce, and she had been pretty successful in different places that she had worked, and I felt like she'd be a good fit for us.
When Ms. Jones first applied, what, if any, promises were made to her with respect to the use of a vehicle?
Absolutely. She required a vehicle. Even she even specified really the type of vehicle she needed, the type of SUV in order to transfer prospects.
Did you agree?
Yes, I did.
What, if any, promises were made to Ms. Jones about educational reimbursement?
That was pretty standard, for the division director. She requested that there be money in the budget for education purposes for her. She wanted to continue her education. And that's important too within that field too, because economic development directors are continuously trying to keep their certifications up and to keep being educated within their field.
Was this back in the fall of 2006?
Yes.
Mr. Preston, can you turn to Defense Exhibit 63? What is this document?
It's an email from Heather Jones to me. It comes from her private personal email address.
When is it dated?
September the 7th, 2006.
Does this email reference a summary of her job offering?
Yes, it does.
Do you recall receiving a summary of the job offering from Heather Jones?
I did.
Was that summary the one you forwarded to personnel?
That's right.
Was it intended by you to be included in her personnel file?
Yes.
Mr. President, is there an attachment to Defense Exhibit 63?
No.
Mr. President, can you also now turn to Defense Exhibit 64? Does Defense Exhibit, well, first of all, what is Defense Exhibit 64?
It's an email from Heather Jones dated September the 14th, 2006 to me. The subject matter is touching base.
Does Defense Exhibit 64 also reference an attachment that Heather Jones sent to you?
Yes.
To your knowledge, has the county ever produced the attachment to you during this lawsuit?
No.
Mr. President, if you could turn to Defense Exhibit 65. And my question here is, to your knowledge, did Heather Jones ever receive educational reimbursements from Anderson County?
No, she did not.
Is that consistent with what is reflected by Defense Exhibit 65?
Yes.
With respect to the memoranda that you initialed for Ms. Jones in 2008, what new employment benefits were conferred upon her?
No.
What material benefits were conferred upon Ms. Jones by the execution of those memoranda?
Nothing new other than what I had already promised her in her original employment.
Were those memoranda memorializations of what occurred back in 06?
That's true.
Mr. Preston, can you look at Defense Exhibit 66 for me? And I'm not really interested in the first couple pages. What I'm really interested in is the one date stamped plaintiff 02214 and the page directly after that. Mr. President, do you recall in December of 2006 whether the county purchased a vehicle for Ms. Jones?
Yes.
If you turn the page and look at the next page, Does that appear to be an invoice?
Yes, it does.
What is the invoice for?
The Yukon XL,
When is it dated?
12/5/2006.
Turn back. What is on plaintiff 02214?
It is an Anderson County check made out to Performance Chevrolet.
Was this check and this invoice for Ms. Jones' vehicle?
Yes.
From 2006 forward, is it your understanding Ms. Jones had a vehicle from the county?
That's true.
Do you know whether she used it during that period of time?
She did.
Did she use it consistently from that time?
Yes.
Do you know whether she used the vehicle before, during, and after your tenure as county administrator?
She did.
In fact, if you looked at Defense Exhibit 137 for me, Mr. Preston. What is this document?
It's a fuel master transaction report for, I think, the gasoline being used for the vehicle assigned to Ms. Jones.
For the vehicle assigned to whom?
Heather Jones.
And does it go through the gas purchases by Ms. Jones from all the way back in '07, straight through until July of 2009?
Yes, it does.
To your knowledge, Mr. Preston, with respect to Ms. Jones' request to travel to Germany, do you know whether she ever went?
No, she did not go.
When you responded to her about her email that's in the record, what was going through your mind?
There was a lot going on in the county at that time. I was trying to close out, and when she contacted me and asked me for these items, I didn't think too much about it. I mean, there was more important things on my mind at that time. And I just asked her to memorialize them. And if I had to do over now, I probably would have done it differently, but I didn't think about it at that time.
Do you know whether you ever actually signed off on the travel memo to Germany?
No, I don't think I did.
Was it your understanding Ms. Jones was asking you to use existing budgeted funds?
Yes, it was.
Was her potential travel going to cost the county any more than they had already budgeted?
No, she still would have gotten approved from the incoming administrator.
Would she still have gone back and gotten Michael Cunningham's
That's correct.
approved?
Yes.
You may.
May I address witness?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Preston, before we go into the second exhibit notebook, do you recall testimony from Ms. Wilson about certain reimbursements she said you denied?
Yes, I do.
What were those reimbursements?
She had submitted a formal Freedom of Information request to the county, and those requests were turned over to the county attorney. The county had a formal policy at that time, and I still believe they still do. And that policy, as a result, or as a requirement because of the way she had submitted that FOI request, required that she pay for those materials. And because it took a lot of time and effort to prepare those documents. If I remember right, the total amount of time and cost that went into that was calculated by the finance department along with the county attorney was a little better than $700. And that invoice, along with a copy of the letter, I think, from the county attorney, was sent to her, and she had to pay that $700 in order to receive those materials because of the way she went about asking for them at the time. And then later, she came back after she had paid that money and received those materials and requested that money be reimbursed to her. And it was not reimbursed to her because of the way she went about it, and the county attorney advised that I not reimburse to her. But I think maybe later on the county did do it, but I'm not absolutely certain about that. That was not for travel.
Was there ever a time when travel reimbursements for a county council member concerned you?
No, council members, they could travel whenever they wanted to. Well, one time did, I have to say, I think, yes, there was one time that I got clarification on it, that there wasn't a problem after that.
Okay. Can you explain to Judge Couch what happened in that one instance?
The finance department they were reviewing documents that flagged a particular, item that she had submitted, Cindy Wilson submitted concerning a travel to a political event. I don't recall exactly how it was worded, but it was enough to get their attention.